Good day to us wherever we are. I am Ogechi Sylvia Eze Ni Odocha, General Practitioner, aka SopranoDoctor. Today, the 19th of November, we mark International Men's Day, a day we celebrate the men in our lives, be they our husbands, our dads, our brothers, our friends, our colleagues, our acquaintances. And today I woke up to a very frosty, cold morning, and I was grateful for the gift of my husband. He is the one who is going to go out and shovel the snow and de-ice the car. I will enjoy my soft life, and even the gift of warmth. It's something we take for granted, but physical touch, human warmth, these are gifts that are very, very treasured. So today I want to talk about International Men's Day from a health and mental well-being perspective. There are topics I'm going to cover over the course of the week, starting from how we view and care for our men from infancy, even before birth, even before conception, in utero, in the womb, infancy, childhood, puberty, adolescents, young male adults, older adults, and then granddads. So we start from sex selection. We may say gender does not matter in today's world, but we are not being honest with ourselves, because I work in the health field and I see when couples are coming for IVF, there are couples who select the gender of their baby. Some have had girls and then they want to have a boy child. That is being gender driven by what we do. So some of them want to have a boy child for several reasons. Sometimes you have even single moms who are coming for IVF, maybe using donor sperm, and they specify that they want to have a boy child. Maybe as a young man of the house, some of them say, I need to have a man of the house. So there are connotations that have to do with gender. Now, let's say the conception has happened. At the 12th week, because usually the first ultrasound scan in the UK is done at 12 weeks. That is the scan where they go to date the pregnancy. Sometimes, if the baby wiggles around in the womb, they can see the baby's penis that says this is a boy child. That is another thing, confirmation of gender. Then, people even say in my place, they said if you look at the shape of a woman's pregnancy bump, if it points downwards, it's a boy child. If it points forward, it's a girl child. I don't know how true that is. I've never been pregnant, so I don't know. But, some people call it old wives' tales, but my grandmom used to swear by it. Then, when the child is born, there are examinations done in hospital called the newborn physical examination. The child is born. We look between the legs to check, is this a boy child or a girl child? There has to be a clear-cut differentiation between the female genitalia and the male genitalia. So for the male genitalia, we're looking at the testicles to be sure that they have descended, and there has to be a penis there as well. If we're not sure, then we call it ambiguous genitalia, and this could be due to certain medical conditions like feminization or androgenization of the genitalia, and there are specific medical care that this individual will need. Sometimes, if they're able to surgically correct, they might choose the gender of the child at that point in time. When they're doing the sex selection, like I said before, preconception, they look at the genetics. The men carry the XY chromosome, and the female child carries the XX chromosome. So when this child is born, they can do the genetic testing and check what are the predominant genes here that will help determine what the surgical correction will be. Some people come out as true hermaphrodites. People don't think that they exist, but they do exist, and they live among us, and they need support, not stigmatization. They need care. Now, the child is born. 8 weeks down the line, the baby is brought to my clinic, the GP clinic, for an 8-week check. I will do a separate video on this. In this check, I also have to look at the testicles to be sure, look at the child's scrotum to be sure that the testicles are inside the scrotum. So the scrotum is the bag, the sac. The testicle is actually the organ inside. I have to feel that the testicles are in the sac. Some children have got retractile testicles. So when you caress the inside of their thigh, the testicle runs back in, but it should come out, okay? We also check and be sure that there are no hernias at this point in time. So that is part of the 8-week check specific for the male child. Then these children should have their vaccinations between 2 to 5 years old. They also have the vaccination schedules. These are not gender specific. I'm just mentioning them. Now we get to teenage and puberty. So some young boys begin to experience teenage from the age of 10. One of the first signs is increase of this testicular volume. So mothers, fathers, be sure you're examining your children. Delayed puberty can cause a lot of problems. And if we find out that they are not meeting their milestones, see your GP, and then they can refer on to a pediatrician or an endocrinologist. It's also at this point in time that their lovely soprano voice, mommy, will now break. It's like, mommy. There have been cases in history in most of the organized Christian religions where we heard about the people they call the castrati, who were castrated before they hit puberty so that their soprano voice remains. These are some of the things that are being, investigated right now about the inhumanity of organized religion. So scrotal volume increases, the voice box breaks, we start to see pubic hair in the groin, in the axilla. Some of these young boys begin to exude this body odor. My mom used to call it dimpa. So these are all pheromones because of the endocrine system. Testosterone is surging through the bloodstream. Some of these young boys start having early morning erections. Parents, please, if you see your son having an early morning erection, it does not mean that he was doing anything bad or he was masturbating. It is just a normal response to testosterone surging through the bloodstream. So let's keep that in. Apologies for that break in transmission. I'm sure you will notice that this camera quality is different. That's another benefit of having my husband. This is his phone I'm using. Okay, so we've talked about puberty. It's also at this point in time that young boys start experimenting. And this is where parents need to support their teenagers. I was a difficult teenager. And when I look back now, I realize that a lot of this is hormone-driven. It's not because they want to be stubborn. There are hormones surging through the bloodstream. For the young girls, estrogen, progesterone. For the young boys, testosterone. And it's that testosterone that is a marker of masculinity. People have demonized men as beasts and all whatnot. We have not fully understood what testosterone does. Is that testosterone that helps with muscle development. Some of them start to gym. They want to build six packs. They want to be attractive to the girls. They start following their friends. So, supportive parents, this is the time to draw them close. Be patient. Remember, you were once teenagers. And if we open your book, if we go to your parents, we may run. So, be there to listen to them. Peer pressure at this point in time is very strong because they want to fit in. People start joining fraternities, some will join cults, some will start doing drugs because they want to fit in. So it is important that you give your boys affirmations to let them know that you love them, that they are special. They don't need to do anything extra to fit in. That once that they are accepted by you, the parents, that is enough for them. Because it is at this point in time that we can lose them or we can make them. So I've talked about puberty. Now, young men and mental health. There's a lot of pressure on young men in today's world. The man being the provider. Most of them have now gone into the dating pool. There are so many arguments about men paying for the first dates and women sitting back and being receivers. I grew up in Nigeria and I know that the approach to dating is different. Where a guy will tell you, okay, I want to take you on a date. And I'll be like, I'm going to bring my friends. You not go and gather your friends. The guy will be looking, hey. Sometimes the guy will sit down and be just drinking water. Also be chowing. Then I came to the UK. 50-50. Guy go bring. Woman go bring. Even when they enter the Uber or to go home, the woman will enter her Uber. He will enter his own or she will come in her car. So there's more independence in the West. But still, there are still that connotations of he should be the provider. So, you see men going into relationships, we hear stories of the woman will chop his money, she will run. But the funny thing is that men are even chopping women's money and running. So it's not like it is only specific to men. So there is that pressure on young men to provide, to live up to expectation. Now, not just from their parents, but also from the girl or from the person that they are trying to win over. So some of them start doing all sorts of shady business, scams, just to meet up. And here again, positive reinforcement from parents, extended family, communities, schools, churches, and the society that will positively socialize these young men. The mental health is very important at this point in time. Some of them are going through that phase of being the beloved mommy's boy, daddy's boy, to becoming a man of their own. And there is that disconnect. Somebody said, for young men and teenagers, or young people and teenagers, you don't even know where they belong in the church. There is children's church. There is adults church. They're just somewhere in that between the age of 13 to 18. In the UK, 16 actually. And nobody really knows where to place them. They need a lot of encouragement. Invest in them at this point in time. This is the time we encourage young men to start examining their testicles. Testicular cancer is a big killer in young men. And people think cancers are just for older people. No. There are cancers called teratomas, which we see in younger men from the age of 22 and 20 and above. So examine your testicles. Feel them, especially after you've had a warm bath, when everything is relaxed. If you feel any lumps that have not been there before, please see your GP. This is also the point in time some may start having their first sexual encounters. Please talk to them about safe sex. People pick up infections at this point in time that might have implications in future. Infections that might go and block the spermatic duct, and down the line, they start coming down with infertility issues. So, safe sex, abstinence if you can practice it. If you need to know more about safe sex, see your GP. You can go to the sexual health clinic. They will tell you about regular screening of your sexual health, which should be done every 3 months to screen you for common sexually transmitted infections, and also keep safe. It is your health. You are responsible for your health. Also, positive role models, I've talked about it. Positive masculinity, work placements. Young men start going into the workplace. They have to stand up. They have to prove themselves. They need all the support. Now, let's go to the young men. So when I mean young men, okay, let's say middle-aged men, cardiovascular health matters so much because we've noticed that men tend to have much more chronic and cardiovascular conditions than women. It might be due to stress. It might be due to stress. So we, as the women in their lives, we need to support them. It might be due to stress. So we, as the women in their lives, we need to support them. Encourage them to go for their NHS health checks. So the NHS health check is a screening that's done in the UK. Once you turn 40, you get a letter in the post. You go, you book an appointment, go for that screening. There you have your blood pressure, blood sugars, weight, kidney function test all done. It's done to detect and catch chronic conditions early. Also, mental health at this point in time. This is the age when men would have become fathers, would have become husbands, and now they are caring for their families, providing for their families. Let us use their clinic consultations to ask about mental health. A lot is brewing inside men, and that's why sometimes at the end of the day, you see men lash out, and we call them beasts. But did we ask them questions? Did we try to find out how they are coping with their mental health and the stress of life? Men also need care. Now, erectile dysfunction. We see a lot of it. Young men who have married, when they were in love and dating, the sex was good. It was spontaneous. And now they've married. It's like, God, everything is boring. You cannot have an erection. At this point in time, we need to come to your GP. We'll do the investigations. I've done videos on erectile dysfunction. It might be organic, whereby it can be detected in blood test. Very important to know about erectile dysfunction. Sometimes erectile dysfunction is a marker of very high cholesterol, which puts people at risk of strokes, heart attacks. So erectile dysfunction should be investigated not from the sexual angle only, but also from a cardiovascular angle. And also, they might need referral for counseling. There are resources for psychosocial counseling. I went for this conference at Chesterfield, and I got this leaflet, Relate in Derbyshire in the UK. They offer psychosexual counseling, and they also offer couples therapy, family therapy, talking therapies as well. Prostate examination. I've done extensive videos. You can go check about that on my YouTube channel. Have you got a family history of prostate disease? Have you noticed that your urine stream is weaker than usual? You're passing blood in your urine. You're passing urine in dribbles. It's very important that you see your doctor. Prostate cancer is one of the highest killers of African and Caribbean men. Please do not take it for granted. Do not take it for granted. Bowel cancer, we see a lot of it in African, Caribbean, Nigerian men. We've got screening services that are offered in the UK. I believe it's once you turn 60, you will get a letter and you'll get a kit in the post where you would send a stool sample, and that goes off to the lab to check for occult or hidden blood in the stool. Now let's go into the old age, geriatrics, our grandparents. Yeah, I've talked about prostate cancer. I've talked about mental health at this point in time. Grandpas, the children have flown the nest. The house is empty. Dads start missing their children. They need all the support. We've got old age psychiatry services, very strong in the UK. And I want to believe we've got the same in our various countries. They need a lot of support. Also, bone cancers, myelomas. We see them quite a lot at this age. Over the age of 60, complaining of persistent bone pain. Some people will, just stand, and just by standing, they will develop pathological fractures because the bones have become weak due to these myelomas. So these myelomas are bone cancers. They are bone-eating cancers. They weaken the strength of the bones, and they can actually be fatal. So sometimes they are non-specific: tiredness, night sweats, bone pains, non-specific symptoms. See your GP and we can investigate. So this is like a run through of men's health and men's mental health. I will go into detail on all these topics one after the other following the course of this week. And if you have anything else that you want me to discuss about men's health, please let me know. Thank you.